Hello, buddy. Welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be doing a Taric guide for League of Legends. So, special thanks to NGE Pulse for the generous donation for the Taric guide, and thank you for your patience as well. It's been a crazy end of the semester for me here with the grading and such, so I appreciate you waiting on me a little bit for this guide, but it has finally arrived, so thank you very much. So first up, we're going to go into why to pick Taric, his overall meta position right now. We're going to go into all of his abilities and how to perhaps optimize them, talk about his strengths, weaknesses, matchups, items, runes, masteries, and we'll talk about how to lane with him, how to team fight with him, and then I'll talk more about kind of my coaching and guide playlist as well at the end. If you're new to the channel, then you can find access to this Google Doc in the description, as well as timestamps for each section. So if you don't have time to watch the whole thing, it'll probably be about an hour long. Then you can just skip around and find the parts that most interest you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get in here. So I am not a Taric specialist. I have not played a ton of games with Taric, so I want to preface by saying that. However, I think that he can be really good in the right circumstances. He's not someone that you would want to first pick, most likely. But he can be very good in a team fight centric composition. So let's go ahead and talk about why you would pick him and what some of his unique strengths are. Okay, so Taric is very good in long team fights. So his abilities all have pretty good sort of synergy with multiple champions. So his heal can potentially heal everyone on the team. Each time you cast it, his W gives both you and your target a pretty substantial shield. His stun can potentially stun every single person on the enemy team. It's unlikely to do that, but it could. So he has lots of area of effect ability. So he wants people to be grouped up and fighting in a very densely packed area, potentially. And his ultimate negates, makes everyone invulnerable for 2.5 seconds. So once again, that's really, really good if you're against a team fight composition. So he's really good with the team fight composition on your side, and he's really good against the team fight composition on the other side because he can prevent all of that rumble damage or all of that fiddlesticks damage if you time it correctly and such. So it can be quite powerful. However, so what are some of his weaknesses? Well, he has large windows of vulnerability, especially outside of combat. So all of his abilities have a 15-second cooldown, excuse me, which we'll talk about here in a second. But this is negated in combat because every time you melee attack after you use an ability, then it lowers the cooldown of his other abilities. So if you're in combat constantly throwing out melee hits and spacing out your ability usage, you can actually get the cooldowns to be quite low. I mean, on par with other top-end supports, but you have to work for it. You have to actually land those melee hits to get those low cooldowns. So if you're just outside of combat, just trying to poke or just trying to sustain in lane, it can be a little rough sometimes. But inside combat, he's very, very effective. So your team needs to be organized, and you need to try to get a lot of good team fights together. So he's, like I said, good both with and against team fight compositions. He can struggle in the laning phase for the reasons I described. You can melee minions to get the lower cooldowns on things like your heal, but all of his stuff is very close range, and it's just not designed to be very effective in small scale skirmishes. Like he wants to be in huge team fights. So his laning phase is really rough. So, we'll talk about matchups, but you do not want to play him into something like a Zyra or a Karma or just anything else that's going to exert like tremendous lane pressure on you. You want to play him probably against other tanks that are just going to chill, or maybe like a Soraka. I'm not sure about like the Soraka matchup, but like maybe Soraka or Janna, especially Janna, maybe someone who's just going to chill in lane, then you might be able to do that. Okay, so he has virtually no lane pressure, but he's very sturdy during all ends. So you can actually tower dive with him pretty easily, and he can take a lot of punishment in fights, as we'll see in some of the footage that I'm going to show later. So very strong area of effect, pretty bad laning phase, but really great at team fights in the mid and the late game. His itemization is also pretty good because he benefits both from the plus healing from his heal and his shield. So he has 2 healing shielding abilities. That's really good with the plus healing. And then he also can get Knight's Vow, which is really strong also. So that's something that not a lot of other utility supports can get. Like Rakan can't really get Knight's Vow because he's not melee. Like you always can get Knight's Vow, but it's garbage if its bonus is cut in half. So the fact that he is melee And the fact that he has multiple heals and shields really helps you out. Okay, so his common meta position. So I would say, you know, pick him if your team needs a tanky peeler. So if you need someone who can tank, you need some tanks on your team, someone who can tower dive, someone who can tank barons, you know, all that kind of stuff. But also peels. So there are other champions in this category. You've got your Braum, you've got your Alistar, and such. But neither one of them, I don't think, is as good as Taric. Both of them have much higher lane pressure than Taric does, but they're not as good in team fights, I should say, as Taric is. So if you're against heavy area of effect things, like if the enemy team has Rumble or Ziggs or Fiddlesticks, just stuff that's going to do very heavy area of effect, he's really good against that. If you have high damage casters or characters in general, so that invulnerability is very, very strong, especially if you have high damage characters. So if you have a Master Yi that's running in there trying to get resets, maybe a Riven that you can make invulnerable while she runs in and does her thing, that can be very, very powerful. So if you have an easy laning phase, then you might also pick him. So against a Janna or something like that, it might be a good time to pick him. So I would say your team needs a tank, and you have some pretty heavy hitting area of effect damage dealers, and you're against area of effect. That would be a good time to pick him up. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at him really quick. All right, so he actually has really low. I just noticed that his base mana regen is extremely low, but fortunately you can't cast his abilities that much in lane, and they're not very expensive. So the low mana regen is not going to be that big of a deal in the laning phase, and you're probably going to get a redemption anyways. So that should be fine by the mid game. Pretty decent movement speed, very nice base health, so very tough early on. Base mana regen's pretty good too. Melee, of course. Pretty heavy armor, which is good. That's one of his things. He gives out a lot of armor, so he's good against a lot of AD teams. Not as good as he used to be with AD teams, but he's still pretty good with AD teams. Like back in the day, people probably won't even remember, like before they did his rework a couple of years ago at this point, most likely. Yeah, he's changed in 6.15, I guess. So about a year ago. Anyways, that's in the past. We'll move forward. But yeah, so he's still pretty good against AD. Alright, so how his passive works is it's kind of like cooldown reduction from other champions like Karma or Rise as well. Whenever you hit people with your basic attacks, it lowers the cooldown of your other abilities. You also get some extra attack speed, so you attack faster, and you deal some bonus on hit. Now, it's plus 15% of your armor, so if you get up to 200 armor, which with some builds wouldn't be that hard to do. Now, it's bonus armor, not your base armor. But if you somehow get up to 200 bonus armor, you know, then that would be plus 30, and you would do that around level 13 maybe, so that'd be an extra 100 or so damage on hit, which is not insane, but it's okay. I mean, you're getting to attack a lot more. So what do we say, level 13? I mean, you're going to be hitting for basically 200 a hit, and you get 100% attack speed, so if you keep casting abilities and you keep attacking, he can do some pretty decent damage. It's not like groundbreaking, but once again, over a long team fight, as I said before, he's good in long team fights. Over a long team fight, that does add up. And he does get magic resist per level because he's melee. So the full magic resist. I guess everyone now gets a little bit of magic resist per level, but he gets the full amount, which is nice. So yeah, and then bonus magic damage, and it reduces the cooldowns by roughly 1 second. Now here's the thing though, if you get cooldown reduction, then you actually get less of a reduction on these hits. Cooldown reduction is still valuable on him. They just nerf it a little bit so that your abilities don't get out of control and they're not like on a 3-second or a 2-second cooldown or something. So they're trying to balance him out a little bit by reducing the amount that your cooldowns go down based on your cooldown reduction. So did I talk about that in the notes? I think I have that laid out here on his passive. Yeah. So it wants you, the passive wants you to be active in combat. You want to always cast an ability, auto, cast an ability, auto, cast an ability. Like that's your sequence. You have to choose which ability you want to cast, but that's generally what you want to do. If you cast a bunch of abilities in a row, then you're wasting a lot of cooldown reduction. So ideally, it needs to be slow and steady. Ability, auto, ability, auto. And you may not always be able to do this, but That's your ideal pattern of casting spells. So you can hit creeps to lower the cooldown. It doesn't just have to be champions in the laning phase. It does add some incremental damage. And you have to use this passive properly in a fight, or the CDs are just out of control. So if we look at, and we'll talk more about his Q here in a second, but it takes 15 seconds to recharge one charge, and you can have up to 3 charges. And you really need to get to 3 charges when you do this heal. So effectively, this has a 45-second cooldown. But every time you auto-attack somebody, you know, you're going to be getting somewhere between 6 to 3 down if you've used an ability. So if you Starlight's Touch to heal some people at the start of a fight, auto, W, auto, E, auto. Then I've got some math for you here. So let's say you have 25% cooldown reduction, and you do the Q, auto, W, auto, E, auto. Then it goes down to a 6.75 seconds before you're fully stacked again, when you can do another 3-stack heal, which we'll talk about. In that same sequence, then your W would have an 8.25 second cooldown, which is your shield. If you did it in reverse order, the W would probably go down to, you know, something like a 5-second or a 6-second cooldown. Now, without any cooldown reduction, it would take you 9 seconds to get to 3 stacks again. So the cooldown reduction does still benefit you quite heavily, but just not as much as it would if that mechanism wasn't in place with the autos. So Taric CDs are roughly, 5 to 8 seconds with decent CDR and proper auto attack usage. So this makes him in line with other utility supports. So, a lot of like your Jannas, your Lulus, once they get a lot of CDR, and they can get down to, 9 or 10 seconds, somewhere around there, cooldown on their shields and a lot of their tricks. So Taric is roughly equivalent to that if you're landing all of your autos. Of course, you're not going to constantly be able to auto. People are going to run around. You're going to have to chase and change targets and things like that. So, he's on par with his cooldowns, although they look high at 15, per ability. They look high, but if you're actually attacking people and weaving your spells in and out, then they are actually similar to perhaps even a little bit lower in cooldown than some of the other utility supports. So, pretty good passive. The thing to remember here is just every time you use an ability, you really, really need to try to land some autos before you use your next ability to weave it in. Because if you don't, if it's just straight up 15 seconds for each ability, that's pretty bad. So you want to make sure you're doing that correctly. Okay, his Q is excellent. Now, I had underestimated this before I made this guide. But the thing is, the scaling on it is what's really good. So it's only 60 per charge. You get to a 180 heal, and you're like, man, this is, that sounds pretty garbage. But you got to remember that it heals everyone around Taric and the person that Taric has Bastion on. So it's going to heal at least 2 people. It's going to heal Taric, and it's going to heal whoever he has his Bastion on. But if anyone else is close to Taric or is close to the person with a Bastion, then it's going to heal them as well. So it heals all allies that are close within 325 radius. That's not too bad. It's like 2 champion links. So it's a pretty decent little radius, especially like if you're stacked up. You can see how that diameter works because it's in a little circle, so it's, all around. So that's pretty good. Now, is that the 300? Okay, yeah, that's the radius. So, the diameter on it is actually 650, so it's pretty decent. It's pretty decent. So it's got 60 pers, that's up to a 180 charge. Then it's going to have 60% AP and 4.5% of your bonus health. So that's pretty dang good. So it scales off of both. He has a lot of weird scaling with his abilities. That's why I was saying his itemization is kind of unique and interesting. I think I said that earlier. Because this scales off of armor. This scales off of your bonus health and your AP, and then this scales off of your target's maximum health. So you want to be healing or shielding tanks, ideally. We'll talk about that here in a second. But it actually can be pretty good. So if it hits everybody, just for that base amount, if you hit all 5 people, if we're all just tightly packed in a team fight, you can get up to 900 healing with it, which is quite a lot for an ability, which seems like a lot for 45 seconds, but as we just talked about a second ago, you can get that all the way down to every 6.75 seconds, you can do 900 healing, which is a lot in an area of effect fight. So it's Taric and the Bastion target, so it has a lot more like radius than you would think. So it's 650 per person. So, you know, you're covering, what, 1,300 total space in a team fight of people that could get healed. So that's pretty good. And yeah, you can get it down to about 7 seconds. Scales to plus HP, plus AP, and the plus healing stat in general. So let's say that you just go for what I think could be a pretty standard build of Redemption into Wind Speakers into Knight's Vow. Because Knight's Vow is going to give you healing, and it's going to give you armor, or it's going to give you bonus health, and it's going to give you a lot of bonus armor for your W, which we'll talk about here in a second. So things that give you armor and health are particularly good on Taric. So if you have all of that, then you're going to be getting 254 heal per target that's hit. And that's not very much. I mean, that's like 2 items, 2 pretty cheap items into a game, and just a mastery that you're going to want to get anyways. So that's up to 1270 maximum healing every, 6 seconds or something. That's pretty good. I mean, Soraka doesn't even really heal for that much until she gets a ton of items. Now, that's it, obviously in the rosiest of rosy scenarios, but even at just 254, you're going to be healing 2 targets automatically, your Bastion target and Taric. So you're basically guaranteed a 500 heal every 6 seconds. So it's pretty decent. Now, comparing that with Karma's like Mantra E at level 11, if you assume with Karma that you have Redemption plus Wind Speakers plus Ardent Censer, which would be the standard build on her, most of the time, you get 481 is your big heal that you put on your main target, and then your half heal that could potentially get for other people can lead up to a 1445 maximum shield. Now remember, shield is not heal, so it's not permanent health, but it's also not affected by ignite and grievous wounds. So, both shields and heals can be good in different situations. But you got to keep in mind that the cooldown is probably going to be lower for Taric. Like, Karma with a lot of CDR, if she's attacking a lot and queuing and things like that, she can get it pretty low, but I don't think she's going to get it lower than 6.75 seconds. Maybe in a really rosy scenario, but in general, the cooldown on Taric is going to be as much or lower, or at least on the same level as Karma Mantra E. Now, it doesn't give the speed and all that good stuff, so they're different. But just if you're thinking about team fight comparisons between a Karma shield and a Taric heal, they're similar. But Taric also has a shield, which we'll talk about here in a second. So Karma doesn't have that. It's like all of Karma's defense is just basically her Mantra E, and then she can cast normal E's on people, which are very weak compared to other shields in the game. But yeah, Taric has 2 different things that shield and heal, not including his ultimate, which completely negates all damage. So he basically has 3 things that can heavily protect people, and a full stun, which Karma doesn't have either. But, Karma is obviously really good. She has other stuff going for her. Most notably, her wave clear is extremely good early in the game. But that's just a comparison with another popular champion in terms of how they do in like mid to late game team fighting. Okay, so heal, very good. I wouldn't build a lot of AP on him. You might pick up some incidental AP with, like, if you choose to get an Ardent Censer, which I'm not entirely sold on that. I wouldn't go AP runes or anything. I think armor is just going to be a lot better on him. But it's an interesting build path, that it has that 0.6 AP on there. Although I don't think that matters that much. I would go for the bonus health scaling. Be a lot better. Okay, so let's talk about his W. So Taric and his Bastion mark. So basically how this works is you press W on somebody else, and it shields both you and that other person for a certain amount for 2.5 seconds, and they become your Bastion. So that means every time you cast an ability, they cast the same ability on the same, either on the same target or in the same direction. Except for Bastion. I don't think it does with Bastion. But basically what this means is when you put Bastion on somebody and you press heal, it heals in an area around you, and it heals in an area around your Bastion. So it's automatically going to heal your Bastion and anyone that's close to your Bastion, and it's going to heal you and anyone that's close to you. And with your Dazzle, we'll talk about here in a second, which is his stun, then it creates the stun out of you, and it creates the stun out of that person. So it has a much larger radius with the stun. So you could potentially, let's say that if a Hecarim's running into a fight, you could put Bastion on him, then even if he's like 1200 range ahead, or however long the Bastion leash range is, 1300. So if he runs 1200 ahead, you can cast Dazzle, and effectively your Dazzle would have, 1775 range if you aim it correctly. So yeah, you can get a lot of range out of your Dazzle if you use it correctly with Bastion. But I'll show it in the video clip here in a little bit. But yeah, I think that can be quite powerful. So you get a shield, and you get to cast your abilities on that person. So it's still got the same 15-second cooldown. You got to land the melee attacks. Now, both Taric and the Bastion marks target gain bonus armor equal to 20% of Taric's total armor. So remember, this one scales off of his bonus armor. It's very confusing, some of the scaling on Taric. So his passive scales off bonus armor, but this is total armor. So if you have 200 armor, that means that Taric's going to get 40 bonus armor, and the Bastion target is going to get 40 bonus armor, which is a big deal. I mean, armor is worth 20 gold apiece, so that's 1,600 in stats. 800 times 800. So you've got your 20 armor per times 40, and then you got 2 of them. There, 1,600. So that's quite a lot of gold worth of free stats, and that can be a big deal on a squishy. I mean, if you cast that on your AD carry or whatever, then that's probably going to like double their armor in the mid to late game. So that's basically like, if you haven't watched my itemization videos, that means it's going to take 40% more physical damage to kill the target whenever you add on 40 armor, is how the math works out. So it's really, really good. You could still put it on tanky targets too, and it's still going to be very effective. And they get that permanently, as long as they're the Bastion. So the 2.5 seconds is only for the shield. This stays on them if you're close and they're your Bastion target. So that stays on them. Now the shield is up to 12% of the target's maximum health. So this does depend on the maximum health of your target, not Taric. So if Taric has 4,000 health and casts this on a 2,000 health AD carry, it's going to be a 240 shield rather than a 480 shield. Okay, it's going to be a 480 shield on you because you're the target of your shield, but his shield is only going to be 240. So it's based off the target. So ideally, it creates an interesting choice because you want to be shielding your AD carry to protect him from stuff. But if you shield the tank who's taking a lot of damage, then they would actually get a bigger shield because they're going to have more health. So we'll talk about the playstyle of Taric here in a second. But I think in general, if possible, you want to shield the tank target and just try to peel with your Dazzle, peel the person off your AD carry with your Dazzle, and use your Starlight Touch to heal. But it depends on the situation. You might have to Bastion the AD carry anyways, even if it's less efficient, just to give them the bonus armor and to give them the shield. But yeah, he's great with initiation tanks because he gives them that bonus armor, and he gives them the shield. So, maybe you might start off with a Bastion on your Hecarim who's running in. Bastion, auto, heal, auto, Dazzle, auto, and then, you could Bastion your AD carry if you wanted to after that. Something like that. So it's a pretty good shield. I mean, you're looking at usually a minimum 120 shield, typically later in the game, 240 shield, and it shields both targets. So that 240 shield, if, both you and your target have 2,000 health, the 240 shield, it's equal to a 480 total shield, which is really powerful for a shielding ability. It has virtually no scaling, though. Now, it does benefit from plus healing and shielding, though. So, once again, if you have Wind Speakers plus Redemption, you're going to get 20% more out of it. So, it does scale with that, although it does not scale with AP. Nothing scales with AP hardly here, so that's why I'm saying that AP is really weird. A really weird thing to try to build on him. Like, I don't know why they have an AP ratio there, but anyways, whatever. It's good ability. Okay, so that's what you want to max, I believe, levels 1 to 5. So this will keep people alive. You might get your Q at level 1, and then get your W after that. Or you might actually, I think, get an E as your first point, just so you can wave clear a little bit at level 1, maybe. And then go W, Q, and then 3 points in W. But yeah, the reason you do that is so that both you and your lane partner get that bonus armor. So that'll help them out with trades. It'll help them out if they take some incremental damage from minions and other such things. So just giving them that bonus armor is significant. So it's, 20% AD resistance if you want to think of it like that. So pretty good for all ends. All right, let's look at his E. So his E is a stun, but it's very telegraphed and very easy for a lot of champions to dodge. However, it is area of effect. So he basically puts this little line beam in front of him and in front of the bastion target. So you'll see this in the video. But both people have this E in front of them. And then if someone stands in it long enough, after a 1 second delay, then it stuns them for a certain length of time and does some damage. Oh, I guess this has an AP ratio too. It also has a bonus armor ratio. So you're going to be doing, if you have 200 bonus armor, you would do 60 more damage. Just not massive. I don't, like, his armor is nice, like the bonus armor and stuff, but I don't think that it's so nice that you have to go crazy with your itemization. Like, you don't want to rush, like, I'm trying to think of high armor, like Thorn Mail, Frozen Hearts, Randuin's, or something like that. Like, the bonus armor is good, but you can still get good support items and be effective. Like, you can still get Redemption, Locket, Knight's Vow. Knight's Vow is good, because that's got health and armor on it. But you can still get your Redemption or Locket, probably both, and be just fine. So don't stress too much about trying to stack as much armor as possible on Taric. You do get a slight bonus out of it, but it's not so much that it really, really incentivizes you to go like hardcore armor. It's nice, but it's not entirely necessary all the time. To the extent that you are excluding other good tank items like Redemption. Okay, so this could potentially stun the whole team. It's unlikely to, but if you're timing this right, you should be able to get a decent stun on them. It has pretty awful scaling. Like, the damage goes up, but the cooldown doesn't go down. And the stun goes up very, very marginally. Like, you only get up to a 1.5 second stun, which is okay. It does reset his basic attack timer, so I guess if you're, like, auto, dazzle, auto, then you can sneak in one more auto attack. That's really bizarre that it would do that, but it is an auto attack reset. Okay. And his final ability is Cosmic Radiance. So this makes everyone invulnerable for 2.5 seconds. Now, I don't... Okay. So they can still be crowd controlled, but they cannot be injured. So they can still be stunned, feared, all that good stuff, but they cannot be injured at all. So they're 100% immune to all damage. The thing of it is kind of like Azonia's Hourglass, but you can move around and you can be crowd controlled. It's just like a KO ult on everybody. So obviously this is an extremely powerful, and it's a 400 radius. Now remember, this is around both people too. So this is around you and your Bastion targets. That's a really, that's what, 800, it's like 1600 coverage. Radius coverage for you and or diameter coverage for you and your partner. So really high probability that you're going to be able to make a lot of people on your team invulnerable if they know how this works and they step into it. So that's quite powerful. It has a pretty long cooldown, but it does go down dramatically. So like by level 3, it's only 100 seconds. So that's pretty good. So level 1, it's a lot. But if you're getting decent cooldown reduction, it comes down quite a lot. But yeah, that's basically like if they don't run away and you cast that in the middle of a team fight, you just won the fight. Basically, like it's almost impossible to win a fight, as the enemies if your team is 2.5 seconds invulnerable to all damage. So yeah, very, very powerful in team fights. So, I meant to say that E is also, because it's so telegraphed, it's best to follow up with other stuns. So if you have a Sejuani stun or an Amumu stun or something like that, that's when you want to try to use your E to make sure that you're going to land it, or an Ash arrow or something like that. All right, so that's what you want to max that last. So, in lane, you want to get 3 points in your W. Outside of lane, you want to start maxing your Q for team fights, and then you max your E last. 1 point's fine. And one thing about the ultimate is you want to cast this early. So it's the same principle with the KO ult, and I think that this is something that a lot of people mess up with in terms of both their summoners using exhaust, using heal, especially exhaust, is you want to mitigate the maximum amount of damage. So if someone's already at like 100 health and this goes off, they're going to have to run from the fight because they're going to be scared they're going to die. So they're going to use that to run. However, if you cast it early in a fight and someone still has 50% of their health left, and then it blocks the other 45% damage they would have taken, then they might actually keep fighting. So don't, in other words, don't hold on to this until everyone's really low on health and try to save people that way with it. Like, don't be stingy with this. If it's a fight and it's going down and a lot of people are going to die, just do it. And then that prevents a lot of damage, because if you cast it too late, the enemy's just not going to hit them anymore. If you cast it early, they might still try to hit them, at least for a little bit. So you want to mitigate the maximum amount of damage with this. So that means that you need to cast it early. Like if someone's at 25%, you know, they've taken 25% damage or something, go ahead and cast it. And then your team's going to have a lot more HP to clean up the fight too after it finishes. So, you know, don't just like use it every single time a fight breaks out. But if you can tell that it's going to be like a really like important fight and a lot of people are going to die, then go ahead and use it. Okay, and make sure that your Bastion is up too. Make sure you Bastion the person that you want to 100% get this invulnerability, and then go from there. Okay, so Taric's overall strengths, excellent teamfight power, excellent area of effect teamfight compositions, great protection for squishy champions with high damage, your Master Yi, your Riven, Fiora, just all kinds of things that are really vulnerable but do a ton of damage if they can't be killed, because obviously if they're invulnerable from your ultimate, then no one's going to be able to kill them, and they're just going to have free reign to do maximum damage. Alright, so his weaknesses: he has very limited crowd control. All he has is his stun, which is very telegraphed and easy to dodge for a lot of champions, although it can hit multiple. And when there's a lot of stuff going on in a team fight, sometimes people may not have their mobility ability ready. So it's limited. He only has one crowd control, but that's a decent one if you land it correctly. Absolutely terrible laning phase. This is one thing you have to understand. You are going to get beaten up in this lane. Like, he's really bad. Unless a gank comes, like, it is really hard to start a fight and kill anybody. Unless you just have, like, overwhelming force. Like, maybe if you're if your AD carry is Draven and they're Ezreal, like their lane is Ezreal Janna or something like that, and you're Draven Taric, then maybe you can try to go up and fight him. But it's really hard because you're not going to land that stun very often on a lot of targets. And he's good with ganks because you can Bastion the ganker and then throw your stun on the ganker. So he's good with ganks. But he's pretty bad unless you just have overwhelming force in the lane with your AD carry. So he has no steroids for the ADC, and he has no escapes. So he doesn't offer the attack speed that Lulu gives on AD carries, or the extra AD that Janna gives. So he doesn't add a lot of extra offensive power, but he's got a ton of defense. And he has no escape, so if you get ganked, you're basically screwed. If you're out of position as Taric. I mean, all you can do is just cast your stun and just hope you can stun him and run away. But really rough for Taric on ganks. So you need to make sure that you're positioning well, because you just don't have anything to help you out with that. All right, matchups. So I think he's good with like very high powered damage dealers. Like Twitch immediately comes to mind, because if Twitch opens up with his spray and pray and you throw that invulnerability on him, you know, it's going to be really hard for the enemy team to win that fight, because they're not going to be able to kill him. So yeah, very good with that. Very good with Draven, as I just mentioned. Once again, if Draven has 2.5 seconds to beat on people, he's going to kill the whole team probably. Xayah, another one, can be really good. She does a lot of damage. She just needs time to stack up those feathers with her passive, and then she can just wreck an entire team. Master Yi, once he starts getting resets, he just needs one, and then he just starts going off. So your your ultimate's going to help him get to that. And Riven, same thing. If she jumps into the enemy backline and you cast the invulnerability on her, it's going to be lights out, because no one's going to be able to kill her or stop her. I'm not exactly sure who she would be good against, like relatively passive lanes. Like Janna, Braum, Morgana is pretty good. I'm not sure how he would do it to something like a Leona. Because you can stun and shield when she engages, but it depends on the AD carry, most likely. You know, if they have a superior early game AD carry, it's probably really rough. You know, if they have the Draven or Caitlyn or something, it's probably really rough if Leona engages on you. If they have something like an Ezreal, it might be okay. But either way, I think things like Janna, Braum, Morgana, champions that just kind of want to chill in lane a lot of the time, Be pretty good against them. Soraka is kind of a special case because she might out-heal you later, but I'm not sure. You do have a lot of shielding and healing and utility later. I like I said, I don't have a ton of experience on Taric, but Soraka is rough, but she might be okay. Lulu's going to pressure you really hard in lane. Soraka can pressure you hard. But yeah, these right here would be pretty good picks into. You'd want to pick him primarily because you have a lot of damage on your team and very few tanks, and you just need everyone to be invulnerable and just kill people in team fights. I think that's a primary case for you to pick Taric. Okay, so he's going to be bad with Ezreal and Lucian. Ezreal is just a super weak laner overall, and Taric is not going to be able to do anything to help with that, so you're just going to get massacred if you pick Taric with Ezreal, probably against almost any other champion. Although, to be fair, you're going to get massacred anyways if your team picks Ezreal, most likely, so his roam just is not strong enough. Like, what I've done to try to compensate for Ezreal lanes is just get something that can roam and just try to roam and kill mid lane. Oh no, I broke my pin. I was playing around with it too much. Oh well. Or at least I broke the little thing that sticks in your pocket. I guess I could still do it, but anyways. And Lucian, he's just not going to scale well. I mean, he's okay with Lucian. You'll see Lucian in the video, so maybe Lucian's okay. I'm not really sure about that. I know who he's good with, and I know who he's bad against. But I'm not sure exactly who he's good against or he's bad with, for example. But, you know, I would think that, once again, the hyper carries, I think he'd be okay with them the best. Okay, so he's bad against highly mobile stuff that can assassinate and pick off people. Because he needs time to set up, you know, he doesn't want quick fights. He wants long, steady fights so he can set up all of his combos. So he's not going to like Kassadin, Ahri, or poke champions like Ziggs that just don't want to fight so you can't get your melee hits in. Caitlyn is probably going to beat him up in lane. So that can be pretty problematic. Oops. Spelled gauntlet wrong there. Alright, so recommended items, I would recommend Ninja Tabi most of the time. The health, you're going to be in combat fighting. It kind of sucks because you need those Moby boots because you don't have any escapes. You really need those to ward, but the Ninja Tabi, I think, are necessary on Taric. He scales with the armor, and he's just going to be getting attacked a lot because he has to go into melee. So I think Tabi are really good. Redemption, Knight's Vow is probably what I would do next is the sequence. The Redemption, very good. Gives you plus health, plus healing, and of course it has its awesome, you know, area of effect active, which is great in team fights, which is what Taric wants to be doing. You can go Talisman into Ruby Sightstone if you want to, or you can just go Eye of Equinox. I think probably Eye of Equinox is better. It's just more slot efficient. I have tried Coin and Talisman. I just don't think you can go Coin with Taric as much. I do it in the sample game that I'm showing here, but it's very risky. You really need that health regeneration, and you scale pretty well with the plus health anyways off of Eye of the Equinox. So I think Equinox is probably where you want to go. Locket, very good as well. And then if you want a little bit more of an offensive item that historically is pretty good, Iceborne Gauntlet is good on Taric. Give you a little bit more damage since you're going to be auto-attacking anyways. Gives you some nice CDR, and gives you some armor. So it's pretty good. Or you could go Frozen Heart if they have a bunch of auto-attack champions. That can be a pretty good item as well on old Taric. Okay, for runes, I would definitely go Armor Red, Yellow Health. For your blue, you can either go Cooldown Reduction, which is pretty good, especially if you don't think you're going to be getting a lot of cooldown reduction. Remember, Knight's Vow doesn't have any. You're going to be getting Tabi. The Equinox will have 10%. Locket doesn't have any. So you're going to be hurting for cooldown reduction, unless you get a fast Iceborne Gauntlet, which I'm not sure I would recommend, but that 7.5% cooldown reduction can be a big deal. Or you can go Magic Resist if you're against, you know, a Zyra or a Karma or something like that. You definitely want that Magic Resist. And then as your Quince, you just want to go Armor. So just a ton of Armor, either CDR or Magic Resist, and then Health. And then I think Wind Speakers. Like, you could try to go Courage of the Colossus or something like that, but he has such great shielding and healing, as we just talked about. I think that Wind Speakers is a pretty big deal. Especially because both your shield and your heal have the potential to give that extra magic resistant armor. So I think that can be pretty powerful. Or I guess just your... Well, no, both of them can give you the... When you shield yourself, you won't get the Wind Speakers bonus, I don't believe. but when you shield your partner, you will get it. Okay, so how to lane. You want to push your lane as much as possible. This is virtually impossible on Taric, but if they let you push, you need to try to push. You can use the E if you don't think you're going to get engaged on, although it doesn't really do that much damage. It does some damage that you could do to the wave, 60. But you're probably going to get pushed in and beaten up in lane. I mean, there's just no way around it. But if you can push, try to. However, it's probably not going to happen. Like I said, maybe if you're against like a Braum, Ezreal, and they just let you go up and start auto-attacking the creep wave without hitting you, maybe you can pull it off. But most likely, it's going to be really hard to push the wave. Okay. Be careful for ganks. So remember, you have virtually no escapes from ganks. So if they gank you, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So make sure you don't get ganked. Back off if the enemy jungler could be near. Try to avoid an all-in unless the enemy is low. So Taric's pretty bad early in the game, as I just mentioned. Just try to heal the AD carry, auto-attack the wave a few times, and farm. Save your E if the enemy might engage. So you can try to use it to wave clear, maybe at level 1. But after that, just save it and just hold on to it in case they try to fight you. It depends on the matchup, but in general, you're going to be doing a lot of just walking around, like doing your best Janna impression without a shield that's as good as Janna, pretty much. Okay. Use that ult immediately if there's going to be a fight to the death. I've mentioned this several times. Do not hold that ult. It's got a 2.5 second charge time. You do not want the person to die while you're charging your ult. So if it's going to be a fight to the death, just go ahead and drop it. And yeah, go ahead and heal often and heal early. So don't let the ignite rob your heal. So don't try to heal. Don't try to save your heal until they're down to like 10% health. You need to use it early. You know, if it's going to heal them and you're not going to overheal them, just go ahead and use it. So like if they're at 50% health, 60% health, just go ahead and heal them. Don't wait till they're at 10%. Especially if the enemy has Ignite, which almost every sport's taking Ignite these days. 3 points in W for lane, and then switch to Q for levels 7 to 10. The extra armor is going to help out versus enemy champions and versus any minions that might be hitting your AD carry as well. And then I got some footage here for you also. In terms of team fights, just hit the closest target and peel for your AD carry. Watch and anticipate for area of effect abilities and use your R accordingly if you can. Try to bash in the front line and heal and use your E for safety. Otherwise, use Bastion on the AD carry. Make sure you use Redemption and Lock It appropriately and effectively. Okay, so I have some footage here for you. I'm not going to show you a lot of the early laning footage. It's just as I described. You're basically just walking around, getting a hit, just doing the best to help your AD carry stay alive. It's a really rough time for the AD carry in lane if you pick Taric most of the time. Like I said, unless the enemy just really goofs up or has a really weak composition, it's just not happening. But he's very good with ganks, as I said before. So, I've got a gank coming up here, so let's go ahead and watch how this goes down. I went ahead and muted it. This was from a stream. Guess here comes the gank. Fiddle's going around Tri-Brush. Okay, so this is his Dazzle. It's his E. So I see that Fiddle's coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and use that for the stun. I went ahead and healed the Lucian a little bit here. Go ahead and Dazzle. All right, he let us hit him with it. Now, I think she used her Summoner Heal there. All right, so he's basically out of the picture. I just Bastioned on Lucian. So now he's got that shield. She already broke it. But I'm going to turn around, I believe. Yeah, going back for the Kate. Okay, auto. Okay, we've got 1 charge of heal back, but that's pretty weak. We want to try to save for at least 2. If Fiddlesticks gets off the heal. Got Bastion, or I've got my stun coming up here in a second. Alright, he cast the Crow on both of them, silence them so they can't flash. Get the double stun. I'm taking some damage. I could have autoed there. Oh, I did get an auto on her. Okay, so I backed up, auto. Bashing myself, flash. Live with like 5 health. Alright. I should have just backed immediately. I didn't even think about the jungler or the teleport, but yeah, teleport's coming down. So I should have backed faster. I was trying to help him push, but it was really greedy. And we get killed. So ultimately, not worth. But you know, it was a pretty good overall sequence. You can kind of just see how Taric can work with ganks. Now, this is my first time playing him. I was trying out the Ancient Coin build. Like I said, I was going Talisman Coin, or Talisman Ruby Sightstone. Like I said, I think right now I would recommend Eye of the Equinox. Okay, let's find another one here. Okay, so I've got one where we actually do get a decent 2-on-2 fight in the mid-game. So after Taric gets his ultimate, then you can 2-on-2 fight. It's just the 1 to 5 is really tough. But now I've been holding this lane. Lucian had a back. We're getting beaten up. As you can see, the tower's getting kind of low. I'm really low. Get ulted. I have to Bastion myself and walk out. Alright, I'm at like 5% health. Lucian decides this is a great time to all in. So I have to dodge this Vel'Koz Q. He's just spamming Qs at me because he knows one hit and I'm dead. Okay, he goes ahead and ults. I Bastioned him. Go ahead and pop my ult on him. Okay, so we get the invulnerability. I did that heal. You saw how big that heal was. A 3-stack, even just a level 1 heal was massive. I don't think he summoned or healed there. I think that was just my heal, right? Let me see. Yeah, that's just my heal for 165. It's pretty substantial. Plus the Bastion shield, plus the invulnerability. Gets the double kill. I couldn't exhaust anybody there. Like, I just walked up at the very end. I could have exhausted Vel'Koz, like, as we killed him. But I was zoned out so hard from that Vel'Koz because I had virtually no health. But we pulled it off. So the invulnerability, you typically don't want to wait that long to use it, as I explained before. I didn't think he was going to go that hard, but once I realized that he did, then I just went ahead and dropped it and ran up to see what I could do. It could have been a mistake. I probably should have just left him to die, but it did work out in the end. But we probably should not have fought that. Okay, let me go up a little bit more. Okay, fight's going on. Okay, shielding, healing, trying to stun. There goes Fiddle. Okay, dropping the invulnerability. So that's the problem. He was running away because he was kind of low because I used the invulnerability pretty late there. I didn't think we were going that hard once again. Bastion on him again. Get the heal on him. Okay, exhaust him. Auto. Now I see Lucian coming back. Stun him again. Heal. The Taric, I mean, he's very sturdy because he gets the shield and he gets the heal. Every time you cast heal or shield, he gets it. So it keeps him alive so he can stay in there. He can stick in there and do some damage. Alright, we need to run. And we're running. Okay, so pretty good in the team fights. Let me see, 29-30. Got a little more for you here. Alright, so he's going really hard. He's completely surrounded at this point, or he's going to be soon. Okay, so we get the Dazzle, we get the stun on him, we're shielding, we're healing, we're ulting. Alright, so now he's invulnerable. Made Caitlyn run. Caitlyn's attacking me for some reason. Alright, I use a small heal there. Once again, Vel'Koz is aiming for me for some reason. And Lucian gets a penta. We'll keep going with the sequence. It gets more interesting here in a second, I think, from what I remember. So yeah, I mean, Lucian's at full. Now he has Death's Dance plus Boy of the Ruined King. So that's another thing. I mean, if it's a lifesteal AD carry, and you just shield them and make them invulnerable for a little bit, then they can heal themselves too. The invulnerability, don't forget, also a Death's Dance that negates that Death's Dance damage. All right, so get a stun. On him. Lucian's going really hard. I try to drop a redemption so Lucian can retreat. He's like, nah, I'm running deeper into their base. All right, we stun again. Get another stun. Back-to-back pentas for different champions. So yeah, I mean, I've still got a pretty good amount of juice. I've got a lot of mana left. I've got a lot of health left. Like, his mana costs don't go up, so he really doesn't need mana. That's part of why I don't recommend Frozen Fist, because you don't need the mana. Although the armor, the on-hit, and the cooldown reduction are all very, very good. So, awesome team fighting. You saw just how big those shields and heals were, the invulnerability. Like, it can make a huge deal. It's just, can you get through the laning phase? That's the question. So, you know, if you're against a pushover lane, I think you can probably do it. If it's against a much harder lane, you know, you might have to be a little more cautious. But overall, I think he's quite strong. So, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want a coaching session, I do have those as well. If you want to see what those are all about, you can click on my coaching playlist here. Check out some of these. Now, it's just $20 if you'd like a coaching session. I was Diamond 5 last season. I've had a hard season so far. We did get up to Platinum 1, about 50 LP, probably about 2 weeks ago, and we've had a rather precipitous fall back down to Platinum 5, over the last couple of weeks. But we will get back up there. You know, we're just constantly working, improving our game. I think that overall, I think that my game knowledge is really strong. I think I'm definitely at least a diamond level game knowledge person. But sometimes maybe it's just I'm not sure exactly what I'm trying to fix it, but like my mechanics or just like some of my in-game decision making might be a little off sometimes. I'm not really sure. Not really sure, but we're working on it. We'll get back up to diamond. It was similar last season. I was platinum for the vast majority of the season, and near the end of the season I got to diamond, so sometimes it just takes a little while to get through it. But I do think my game knowledge is pretty solid. So if you want to check it out, all kinds of different champions here to coach. Now, like I said, it's just a $20 donation if you would like coaching. However, if you don't have $20 to spare, you can at least learn from others. So most of my coaching sessions, people will make them publicly available, so I do release them on this coaching session playlist, and you can learn a lot just by watching how I coach other people, even if, you know, you don't have the money for me to coach you individually. Obviously, that's the best because I can give you the individual attention. You can at least learn from others. And I have started to branch out recently, too. People have asked me for coaching on mid lane and AD carries as well. So I gave a Twitch coaching session recently and a Talon coaching session. The vast majority are supports, though. But I can coach for anything. I'll do a lot of research and give you the best information that I can about it. So that's available. And then I also have guides like this one. If you want to commission a guide, you can do that as well. That's also only $20. Now, that takes a little while to do these guides. Sometimes they take typically about 4 hours because I have to do research, write up the Google Doc, and then actually shoot the video and upload it. But I do have quite a few of those. If you want to know about other champions, I have a Soraka guide, Karma, Rakan, Bard, Tom Kench, Zyra, Lulu, Janna, and Nami, and Vel'Koz. So lots of interesting guides. And upcoming, I have just now finished the Taric one. I've got Sona, Leona, Nunu, and Sion coming up as well. So any other ones that you want to check out, go ahead. Just you can email me at thestrategyprofessor@gmail.com. Ask about the coaching. Ask about the guides if you want. I'll also do, I could play Flex Queue and give you some live advice if you want during stream or even off stream sometime if you'd like for $20 as well. So yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Oh, I'll show you the rest of the stuff on the channel here really quick too. So we've got the guides, got the coaching session. We have topical guides as well. This is another thing you can commission. So I've got a team fight video coming up soon, but I'll also do a tier list and patch notes analysis for every patch. I have other guides like how to carry support and overview, pick, ban, dodge phase, how to optimize that. I have how to dominate the vision game, an itemization guide. So what do the stats mean? What are the best items right now? Season 7 psychology video. So why is Season 7 kind of hard to climb in? What are some different tactics you can do to overcome that? How to analyze different metagames. So there's lots of different topical guides that are all very helpful. And they all have a Google Doc and timestamps in the description. So they're kind of long, but you can skip around and get to the information that you want to get on it. Did I seriously not put... I thought that I put a 15 on that. I guess I goofed that up, but anyways... or if you just want to watch a playlist of certain champions, I'm constantly releasing new videos on this as well. So you just want to watch like all Janna, learn how to play her. I've got 68 Janna videos lined up here. You can watch them all if you want. I don't know, you know, if you want to, but if you're just really trying to learn a champion or you have a favorite and you just want to watch it, you can just go through the playlist and watch those as well. I'm adding on to them constantly. Now I have more for some than others. Like I have like 29 Zyra videos, 59 Kench, 68 Jannas, and you know, I've only got 8 Sorakas. I'm trying to get more Sorakas. I know people love her on the channel, but I take these from the stream. So just whatever I can play on the stream mostly. If it's a good game, I'll come back and I'll you know, post it up here. So this is kind of like not exactly the best of the best, but it's the good stuff from the stream. It's the good games from the stream that make it onto this playlist. So I'm constantly updating that, so just stay tuned for more episodes on that. I also do Total War Warhammer. I haven't done that in a couple of weeks. I'm going to try to start doing a little bit more of that, but legendary campaigns, no auto-resolve abuse, no other, you know, shenanigans and trying to game the system, just good, clean fun on the hardest difficulty, and I explain how you can play better. So if you just picked up the game or your friend's talking about it, or you're trying to get ready for Total War 2 when that comes out, I'm not sure when that's coming out, but whenever that does, if you want to go back and watch some of that, that can be a fun experience. Teach you how to become a better player with that. And all of my past streams are cataloged here. And I want to go through and put the timestamps in. I haven't done that on all of them yet. But as soon as I get some more time, the semester for me ends on Tuesday. I am an actual English professor of sorts. I'm a part-time lecturer at a major American university. So it's a really busy time of the semester trying to finalize grades right now. But as soon as I do finish that, I will go through and put the timestamps in so you can see exactly when I play which champion on here. So if you don't have time to watch the whole stream, which most people probably don't, you can still go through and find your favorite champions. Like, oh, there's a Rakan game. Oh, there's Tom Kench. Oh, he played Elise Jungle in that game. Let me check that out. So you can at least tune in and just see which champions you want to watch. Okay, so that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Taric, very good at team fighting. Just make sure you can make it through that lane phase. And thanks again. I'll see you next time.